Hello everybody. This story is called the Robinson Clan. Don't know how much I've got of this in my brain, but let's have a look at this one. Ted and Margaret Robinson moved out of their parents' house to a new home in Norwood in Adelaide, where they are raising two kids named Harriet, who is 13, and Bobby, who is 11. And this family was your average family who loved the family life so much. Ted's best mate, John, lived in Port Adelaide, and he was a great Port Adelaide Power fan, maybe a Magpie fan as well. And Ted liked the Adelaide Crows. And on the following weekend was the local derby between Adelaide and Port Power. And yes, Ted and John were at each other's throats. Go Adelaide! Go Port Adelaide! John, now, about who will win. And John said, what is going on? My life is over. What is going to happen? When the Crows were in front by 4 goals, which was 24 points. And with 10 minutes to go, and Harriett tried to be cool and was having a hard time doing so because she wanted to keep her parents knowing too much what she is doing with her friends. But in hindsight, she wanted to go to the Snoop Dogg concert at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre. But Margaret didn't want her to go because it was a school night, but Harriet was upset and said, because I am only 13 years old doesn't mean I can't function the next day at school because I went to a concert the night before. And then Harriet said, I never get tired after concerts, and then she relaxed in her room, and Margaret was in the kitchen cooking a roast for when her husband and friend get home from the footy. And Bobby was in his room playing tie-up games with his best mate, pretending they are tied up by a couple of bank robbers who broke into their house. And Margaret was worried about Bobby when he did this, but still didn't come in on their little game because he wasn't harming himself or John. And John was unhappy because the Crows won by 3 points. Just 3 points. And Ted said to John, how about we go to the Port Adelaide Football Club to have a few beers? And despite what Ted said, my wife is cooking dinner and I have to get home. And John said, ring her up and say I will be late because it's not every day when the Crows win. And I want you to be here in the loser's den for a while. And Ted said, how about we go to the tavern at Amy Stadium and then celebrate both teams, your side for letting us win and my side for winning. And Ted rang up Margaret and said, I'm having a few beers with John, so I won't be home late. And Margaret said, you do this all the time. When you go to the footy and I am dealing with all the family issues, while you are getting really drunk, and Ted said, we're the pride of South Australia. And when we win, it is great to celebrate their win with a couple of chums down the pub. And Bobby's friend had to leave, and Bobby went down to the kitchen and said, when is dinner? And Margaret said, when your father can get home from celebrating his team winning down the pub. You see, I want the whole family together for a Sunday evening meal. And Bobby said, well, is it okay for me to go to the skate park with my friend because we don't have tea till Daddy gets home? I want to have fun And Margaret says no, because it's too late to have the kids out. So I suggest you go to your room and wait. And Bobby said, can I watch TV? And Margaret said, yeah, I can't see the harm in that. And Bobby watched the Sandford match of the day between Norwood and Glenelg. And Norwood win. And Bobby, who cheered and cheered forever, go Norwood, go Norwood! And when the game was over, Ted got home, and it was 7:40, and Margaret said, tea is nearly ruined, but I can scrape up the good bits from our dinner. And then Harriett tried to play her mum and dad against each other by asking Ted if she can go to the Snoop Dogg concert, and Ted said yes. Harriett went upstairs to tell her friends, leaving Ted and Margaret having a big argument about Harriett asking your mother. And when she said no, she asked her father, and he said yes. She needs to understand that she is too young to go out on a school night. And Ted reminded Margaret that their first chatting up conversation was about things like never being too young to do anything. And Margaret said deeply, reminded Ted that we were practically Harriet's age. And do you remember how our first concert turned out? And Ted said, oh yeah, I really don't want that for Harriett. But we can't keep her under cotton wool forever. Because I also remember that we snuck out of our bedrooms to see Poison, despite what our parents. You see, Margaret, if we allow this to go the proper way, maybe we demand to give her and her friends a lift so we know she is telling the truth. And Margaret said, well, yeah, I don't want that. Oh, no. But the problem was Harriet didn't want her parents to give them a lift and said, I am getting a lift by my friend's parents. And then, yes, her friend's parents turned up, or at least the car caused, because despite being too young to drive, her 13-year-old friend drove anyway, and they went straight to the entertainment centre, watched Snoop Dogg, and they met this thug who was named Butch, and they were starting to be very friendly with him until he said, this concert wasn't for you girls, and took the teenagers home to tie them both in his garage and said, you two girls aren't young in this way. Your parents aren't nice to let you go to this concert. And then Ted rang up Harriet's friend's place, and suddenly Harriet came through the door and said, and cried to her father that she and her friend were kidnapped by a bikie dude while we were at the concert, and we spent the last 3 hours in his garage. And Ted and Margaret didn't believe her and grounded her for 3 weeks. But then, when this man in question was on the news with their daughter and her friend, well, let's just say, yeah, Harriet was ungrounded, and the parents thought, her parents thought twice about letting her go out like this again. And when Bobby went out, the thug called out to Bobby, kidnap yourself, buddy. Your sister is being hassled by us. You're not, so kidnap yourself, buddy. And Bobby said, I will kidnap myself. Of it means my older sister has problems with you. And the whole family lived life like nothing is going to happen to any one of them, even when they all went to see Adelaide play Sydney at Adelaide Oval. The end. Well, of course, bad things happen, good things happen in family life, and sometimes at least the whole family went to see Adelaide play the mighty Sydney Swans. Go there, Swannies! Sydney, Sydney, Sydney! Adelaide, 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 Adelaide. Catch ya.